Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay. To today's sustainability seminar. There's an updated handout of our future seminars on the side table. We've added the title for the ones coming up in the next few weeks. So I also want to welcome those listening online. Those online will have the opportunity to type in some questions that we'll answer at the end of the talk. And for those here in our audience also, we'd like to hold the questions until the end, and then we'll take those at that time. So today we're very pleased to welcome our speaker, Dr. Fredrik Gröndahl, who's from Stockholm, Sweden, with the Industrial Ecology Department at the Royal Institute of Technology, or KTH as it's called. Dr. Gröndahl has been involved in teaching activities since 1984 and at KTH from 1991. His research is currently focused on nutrient flows in Baltic Sea, ecological engineering methods, and wastewater treatment in Antarctica. In the last 2 years, his focus has been on the usage of algae and other marine substrates for bioenergy production. Dr. Gröndahl is also working with production of textbooks in environmental sciences and sustainable development. And his latest book, which he co-authored with Magdalena Svenström from Chalmers, has the title of Sustainable Development Engineers and Other Problem Solvers. It's one of the most popular sustainable development books in Sweden. So Dr. Gröndahl is working actively as a project leader, developing some international courses with various universities in, for example, Estonia, Poland, and Russia, as well as helping to develop some more courses at KTH. So with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Gröndahl, and please join me in welcoming.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm very glad to be here. It's my first time in Illinois. So it's very exciting to be here. And I'm looking forward to have my talk, but I feel a little bit we will have some technical assistance from some with that recording. Okay, happy to do that. There we go. Okay, I will tell you a little bit about the research we are doing at the Department of Industrial Ecology at the Royal Institute of Technology. And I don't know so much, now we didn't have the opportunity to present our university, but as some of you know, we are a little bit having a relationship together with the University of Illinois. So this is a part of this exchange. That's the reason we are here. As we say at KTH, we are the biggest, the best, and the most beautiful technical university in Sweden. So that is what we say. We always say that when we have our competitors, that is Chalmers Technical University in Göteborg, and then they get very annoyed on us. So I like to say that every time. And then we have a department there called Industrial Ecology, and our speciality here is to work with system analysis and working with material flows and things like that. And we do it in cities, and we do it in, it could be in a company, or it could be in a bay in the sea. And I have a background as an oceanographer and a marine ecologist is my background in chemistry. And I used to work as a marine biologist before I started to work at KTH. So, and I put some buzzwords here because this is what we are doing now, and it's something that is coming very much in Europe, and that is that the thing we are now going to utilize, hopefully in a sustainable way, is to use the sea and the resources that we have in the sea. And we call that blue growth instead of the green growth, that we are going to see what could be used, what kind of resources do we have in the sea that could be utilized and be economically profitable. And this is also part of the strategy that the European community have, and we are around the Baltic Sea. I will show you a little bit about the Baltic Sea. And they have a strategy called the Baltic Sea strategy, and there is also a strategy for how to develop Sweden into a bio-based economy, and this is part of a project connected with it. And the word sustainable is very important. It's not just to utilize these resources for profit. it should also be done in a sustainable way, and that is a key issue when we start this type of projects in Sweden. Anyway, for the people not so much of this part of the world, this is Sweden, and we have all these countries around the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea is the biggest brackish water environment in the world. It's huge. It's a very, very low salinity. So around Stockholm here, it's only about 6 pCq in salinity. So it's a very low salinity water body. It's also one of the most trafficked seas in the world, and it's also suffer from a lot of pollution, and a lot of the pollution nowadays comes from our eastern neighbors here, from Russia, that Sweden have contributed a lot to the pollution in earlier days, in the 50s and 60s, but nowadays most of the pollution comes from you could say, Russia, the former parts of the Soviet Union. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about our project that is working with the sustainable use of Baltic marine resources. We call this project Submariner. And this is a European Union funded project, and we have partners, all the countries around the Baltic Sea is involved in the project, except Russia, that is not eligible in the European Union project. And in this case, I will tell you a little bit about a case study we are working here, now in the south of Sweden, where we are working with algae and the collection of algae that we use for production of bioenergy and also added uses. But I will also tell you a little bit broader. We are doing a lot of different things in the Submariner project. And here it is in Stockholm with our university. The coast here is brackish water, but when you come up on the west coast of Sweden here, in the Skagerrak area, it's Atlantic, high salinity environment. So we have all these type of different environments. So the projects I will talk about today is focused here on the Baltic Sea, but we also have some cooperation with China, and I told the professor, over there, China, we told that this is in the Shandong province, that we are cooperating with colleagues at Zhejiang University in Hangzhou in China, and they have built this, one of the biggest in the world, I think, raceaway ponds for culturing of algae, and we are doing some system analysis and evaluation of this project. That's just a picture when it was completely new. But they started in April 2012 to produce biomass in this raceaway pond. New marine uses is an opportunity, and we are looking at, in this project, on micro and macroalgae cultivation and collection. It's not only the cultivation. We are also interested, and actually our project started from the perspective that we wanted to lower the impact of eutrophication in the Baltic Sea, because the Baltic Sea is quite heavily eutrophied. And that means that what the intention when we started was not to culture algae or to collect algae to do bioenergy or anything else. We wanted to have it like a biomanipulation method to improve the conditions of the Baltic Sea. So we are looking into both macroalgae cultivation, but also the collection of wild or uptake of wild biomass. And this is also for biofuel production, but also for eutrophication reduction. We are looking also on innovative aquaculture solutions, for example in fish farming, because this is something that is increasing in the Baltic Sea. We are looking on mussels, and I will tell you a little bit about the culturing of mussels that is quite kind of interesting also. We are also working the project with blue biotechnology in order to look at different marine species to see what we could extract from them of valuable substances and commercial products. And this is our German partners that are in charge of that. We're also looking a bit on wave energy in an enclosed sea like the Baltic Sea, where we don't have so high amplitude of the waves, so we need to have special technologies for that. And then we also have reed, and looking in the coastal area of reed collection. And my involvement in this project is on the algae side, and I'm mostly focused on the macroalgae that together with Finnish partners we are working with microalgae too. I'm also in a little bit with the mussel cultivation, and together with Estonian partners that have a lot of reed in Estonia, we are working with the reed. We're also looking a little bit on the combined uses, because now we are starting to define, you could say, industrial parks in the sea. And in these areas, we will allocate wind farms and wave farms or aquaculture and see how this could be combined in this area. So we are defining, yeah, I think you could say industrial parks in the sea. And this is a little bit our expertise, because these kind of projects, they evolve. I mean, because the Swedish government, they put 1 billion crowns into supporting regional development in the coastal areas of Sweden. And that, of course, stimulated this, because they wanted to start projects with algae and mussel farms or fish farms. But no one really did go in to see if this was good or bad for the environment, or even if it was worthwhile doing it from an energy point of view or economic point of view. And what we are doing at our department is, oh, sorry, I have to stand here for the microphone. Yes, sorry. What we are doing here is that we are looking on the whole system and try to develop methods to assess or to make a sustainability assessment purposes. So we are working with the mussels, we are working with the reed, we are working with the macroalgae, and we are working with the microalgae. We are looking on the collection and how to collect it, and different type of machines to collect the biomass. We are looking on the storage of the biomass during the winter. We are looking on the same methods we use in agriculture to put them in ensilage. You say that in English? Ensilage. You put them in, wrap them in plastic, and that is a way to, what is that called in English? Silage, sorry. And then we are looking at the, you could say, biorefinery or production unit. And then there is a lot of different uses that could come out here. It could be food or feed, it could be medicines, valuable chemicals, or it could be biofuels or bioenergy, it could be fertilizers. And in the sustainability assessment, we are looking on the natural resource potential. We try to estimate how much are available for this. We are looking on the environmental effect of starting this type of project, and also a little bit on the technical potential and efficiency, of course. But something that is very important here is the socio-economical aspects of this, to see how to validate that we are improving the conditions for the Baltic Sea, for example, how to put money on that, because that is not obvious how we validate these kind of things. And we want to do this more. And I think this is one of the most important things to develop the socio-economical aspects in the future. Now we have just made an application here for the Swedish government, because they announced now quite a big strategical investment in a Swedish bio-based economy. And here we would like to work with the macroalgae, not microalgae, because we believe we want to culture these things in the water, in the sea, in order to get the environmental benefits out of it. The idea here is that we cultivate the algae, and we are doing this on the Atlantic side of Sweden with a high salinity, and we are working with methods that have been developed in Oban in Scotland. And then we cultivate, and it's big brown algae, kelp kind of algae. And then we are looking into storage and preservation, how the biomass should go into the biorefinery, where we are looking with the characterization of the chemicals. We are looking on polymers and food and feed additives. And then the residues, we would like to produce biogas, because this is of a big interest in Sweden, because we have a good infrastructure for biogas in some parts of Sweden. And then maybe we will look on the residues and see if we could produce biofertilizers to put on the agricultural fields. And then this goes into the society, and of course we will have leakage from the society. It goes back to the sea. But since we are culturing the algae, it will be carbon dioxide neutral and also nutrient neutral. So this is what we are doing, and we are here in between also working with the sustainability assessment, following this project from the start. And this is a cooperation between many universities. So there is KTH and Chalmers, and we have Gothenburg University with marine biologists that are specialized on culture. So it's a multidisciplinary project. So we just applied for this, so we hopefully will get the money for it. As you see, just to show you, I mean, as some of you of course know, but maybe not all of you, that algae are very, very valuable in many ways. And in order to get these projects working, we need to increase the value in each step. So it's not just to produce energy that will not be profitable. We need to see if you could extract many different uses from the biomass. And if you look on this all together, you will maybe get a good economy out of it. And in the macroalgae we collected wild, we could show that it's actually quite profitable actually for the municipality to do this. So that is kind of promising. We put algae in all kinds of seeds, and there is a huge amount of high-value products that could be used. And in Sweden, it's a little bit dark and cold and so on, so we think more maybe this high-value market that is more interesting for us. And then we make energy as a byproduct, but it's not the main thing. Something else that, of course, is a valuable thing that could be looked into is this, that we have this soil degradation taking place around the world. And this means that our soils are less and less fertile, you could say. I read somewhere that spinach, that we learned that it's so good to eat spinach because you get strong and you get these big muscles by eating spinach, and you get iron. But nowadays there is 10 times less iron in the spinach than it used to be in the 50s and 60s. And if you look on all these valuable micronutrients that you need, you could see that you cannot compensate by just adding these artificial fertilizers. But if you could use algae, where you have all this spectra of minerals, and put on the agricultural land, it could be a way to improve the conditions of the soil. So that is another aspect. I will show you now a little bit of what we are doing then, all these different things that we are dealing with. And this is fun. This is the nice thing to be on a technical university, because we have this kind of extensive blooms of cyanobacteria taking place. This is a picture from satellite picture from 2005, where most of the Arctic Sea is covered with a thick layer of a nodularia. I don't know, it's called nodularia. It's a toxic cyanobacteria, and it aggregates in the uppermost 1 meter layer. And then some nice engineer came to me and said, could we do something about this? Maybe we could collect them out there, because it's really, you cannot swim there, you cannot travel with a boat nearly because it's so thick. And then we said, maybe that could be something we could try at least. So we started to work with the same methods as you use in the oil when you take the oil. So we started to make modified oil booms, and tried actually with some field work to see if we could collect some of this algae biomass. And the reason for doing this, it's not to take them up and produce bioenergy. It's to protect sensitive coastal areas that could be valuable from a tourist point of view. Because if you go back to this slide, we have this island here. It's called Gotland. It's very famous for going as a tourist. And they lose hundreds and hundreds of million crowns during the summer when you have this type of blooms. So of course no one wants to have a swim, they would do something else. And therefore, if you could protect some sensitive beaches and so on with this kind of method, it would be quite profitable. Maybe. Okay, and microalgae cultivation, I will tell you a little bit. It's nice you could do so much with algae. I mean, they are, you could have a carbon neutral biofuels. It doesn't compete with arable land. That is, of course, something that is really, really nice. and you could couple it with wastewater treatment. And so there is so many things you could do with this microalgae. And I will not go into all this detail. I know that there are people here that are much more expert on how to produce biodiesel, for example, from this algae, but they are very, very rich, some of the species, in lipids, and you could produce them and convert them to a biodiesel. And it works very well. I've seen now that they have this kind of flying airplanes on algae fuels, and you in the United States here, you are quite advanced on this, and this is catching up now in other countries too. China is coming, and in Europe it's starting, especially in Holland. They have built up, I will show you some slides, something called an algae park, and they are building up research on this. We are slow starters in Sweden on the microalgae, but it's catching up in Sweden too. But there it's more for the high value products. But we are looking to also to use Baltic Sea species of microalgae that are normal algae that you have in the Baltic Sea. So you lower the risk of contamination if some accident happens. Anyway, as you probably know, this is why everybody is so interested in the algae. And you could see, if you make some you could show here that, for example, rapeseed here, you could produce 1,190 liters per hectare a year. And oil palm, that is so big producer, you could produce up to 6,000 liters per hectare a year. But then you have algae in a low production area that are showing that you could produce 12,000 liters per year. And if you are in really good conditions, it's up to 100,000 liters per hectare a year. And this makes it, of course, very, very interesting with the algae. And then if you put it to like area required to produce global oil demand as a percentage of the global arable land that is available, if you take the rapeseed here, you can see it's 207%. There is not, I mean, you can, if you take all the land we have, and we cannot still produce biodiesel from rapeseed. The oil palm is a little bit better, but there is a lot of problems with it, of course, and deforestation and rainforest and everything like that. But you see here, algae low production, algae high production. And Europe could have produced all the demands of the fuels. We take the size of Portugal, and that is just a tiny little country. So that's interesting with the algae, but there is still a lot of bottlenecks to be solved, that nutrients, and there is a lot of work taking place. But algae are nice, as this is a house in London. You could incorporate it in the architecture and make very nice things with this. This slide here is from this algae park in Wageningen in Holland, where they have built up a facility that is available for actually companies, universities from the whole of Europe to come and do experiments. So they are working very much with the bioreactors and the development of bioreactors, because if you want to do this on a very large scale, it's the bioreactors where the nutrients, there are things that have to be solved. These are, I think they are called flat screen bioreactors, plastic bags. You need to keep the cost down very much on the material in order to make it profitable. But maybe sometime we will have this kind of big, huge production areas in the desert and replace all the fossil fuels that we are using today with algae, microalgae. Anyway, since I'm working more with macroalgae, I would tell you that we have also a problem with them accumulated in the coastal regions. And this is a slide, we are back in China now. You can see the huge amount of green algae blooms that they have there. And of course, as we say in the south of Sweden, we have the same problems with red algae. That we say, should this be looked at as an environmental problem, or should we look at it as a resource that we could use in some way or another? And of course, this is not the best place to swim in, I guess. But we have the same problem. This is just to show you, this is our global problems. This kind of problems we have in many coastal regions that suffer from eutrophication. And here we have the Swedish south coast. So now we are back in the area where we are working. It's called Trelleborg, this little municipality. And this is how it looks here. It's one of the most productive agricultural landscape in Sweden. So it's high productive. They use a lot of artificial fertilizer or fossil-based fertilizers. It's very shallow water. So you have just 1 meter, half a meter depth, and it extends for several kilometers out from the coast. And it's limestone, and during the summer it will be quite hot, and that will be like a greenhouse for algae production. So it produces a lot of algae. And these ones are not so healthy. I mean, they produce a lot of bacteria, and it's not nice to go and have a swim. And the famous in this south part of Sweden is the smell. You come down to it smells awful, and people are not so keen on going for a swim or take a swim here. And that is, of course, the main thing for the municipality to invest in a project like that. And they get also very big support from the community, because here, I mean, this is something positive. Someone is doing something. It's not just talking, doing research. Someone is hands-on a little bit. And that is something that is much appreciated of the local municipality. So here we go up and we take it up. And we have developed methods to do it. We have also looked into the environmental effects of doing it. And we have looked into the laws. All these things have been penetrated in this project that have been done the last 3 years. And the main thing we produce from this algae are biogas for the moment, to get rid of the biomass. And that is in cooperation with the industry, the biogas industry. And it's not that it's used entirely only the algae here, it's mixtures, you mix it. And in Sweden it's a lack of substrate for biogas. So you mix this, you could mix it with reed, or you could mix it with manure or something like that. So it's different mixtures. We have done this kind of calculation. In this case study we have, it's just a stretch of coast that is about 40 kilometers, so it's not so much. But on this 40 kilometers we could get about, this is a standing stock, because the algae are on the bottom. As I say, it's like a greenhouse for algae, and when it's very shallow and you get turbulence in the water, and then the algae will float up in the surface, and then it will float as an algae mat. Algae, you understand what I mean. And they will float around, and they will still live. So they are in continuous growth when they are floating around the macroalgae. And we have made estimates on the amount of algae here. And then we say here that we could harvest about 2,000 to 6,000 ton dry weight if we take 10 to 30% of the production. And in this case, we could show that it's about 50 to 150 tons of nitrogen reduction. And nitrogen is one of these limiting factors for production in the Baltic Sea. And that means also that it's about 5 to 50% of the annual freshwater runoff of nitrogen in this municipality. And this is pretty good. So this is promising. And in the same, you save the Baltic Sea a little bit, and then you could also get energy, or corresponding to 170 to 500 households that could be heated annually like this. So it looks promising, and we have gone into the economics here also and tried to look on the socio-economical side. And when we put all the costs on one side and then what you could gain on the other side, it turns out to be a positive economic calculation. So the municipality is very happy, and they do this now on a bit larger scale. And then finally, we talk about macroalgae cultivation. And this is now it's my favorite. I like macroalgae much more than the microalgae because I could culture them in the sea, and it's also that we have quite good conditions for macroalgae, because especially this brown algae, they like a little bit colder water and nutrient-rich water, and we have all these things. So it's good conditions for the macroalgae. And so this makes it very interesting. And the macroalgae also contain a lot of valuable substances that you could extract from them. You could extract food and feed and bioenergy, and then at the same time something that is environmentally good. So it's quite unique in that sense. This is a slide of a brown algae. This is what we are looking at. It's called, you don't probably know what this is, but it's called Saccharina latissima or laminaria. I don't know if you know what that is. But big kelp, and they grow very fast. And we could culture them on ropes and then just harvest them, and then they will produce very, very fast growth. And macroalgae, this is not new. It's new in Sweden, but it's not something new in the world, of course. They have been doing this in Asian countries for thousands of years. But you know that it's used in many aspects, this macroalgae. And this is similar way that they are cultured in Japan. I think this picture is from Japan, and this is also a similar method that we are going to use for the macroalgae in on Swedish Atlantic coast. And hopefully we will have this kind of gardens, algae gardens also on the Swedish west coast, at least some on the Swedish west coast. This is the methods we are doing. We have this sea-based culture of these long lines. They look like this, and we settle them in the lab on this seeded line and indoor cultures, and then we put them out in the sea, and then they start to grow very, very fast, and then we could harvest them. So we will see how it works. We have just started, and that's the same in Scotland. I've been doing this for a little longer time, and that is you could get a lot of interesting things out of the algae. I will talk a little bit about the indirect method of collecting algae that is very popular in Sweden, because it has a lot of advantages. You don't need to go out in the sea with these boots. I mean, this is something that collects the microalgae by itself. In Sweden, we have the best conditions in the world, I would say, to culture blue mussel. It's called Mytilus edelis. I don't know if you know what that is, but the blue mussels we have really productive waters. They are very nutrient-rich, the waters. We have a lot of archipelagos. It's very easy to put out this kind of farms in the sea. And it's so easy. You just have all the larvae of this blue mussel, they compete for space. So if you just create space for them, they will settle that. They have this overproduction of larvae. So you put the rope in the water, and then you wait, and they will settle around May, and then they will start to filter and eat all the algae. And then after a year, you just take up the rope and harvest them. And if you're on the west coast or in the South Baltic Sea, you get nice mussels that you can sell to France because they make wool out of this, you know. It's very good. So this is for human consumption. But you could do with the smaller ones we have in the Baltic Sea, because of the low salinity. They are salinity stressed, so they are smaller in size. We could do other things. So with the mussels here, you could produce food, of course, so that is valuable, but also feed, or you could produce fertilizers and energy. But this is a waste of high-value protein, because this is really good things to eat. And one market that is opening up now, because as you know, when in Scandinavia, in Norway, for example, they are producing salmon. and this salmon farm, and they are producing salmon for the whole world nowadays. It comes from Norway, all the salmon. And to feed get 1 kilo of the salmon, you would need to put in 4 to 5 kilos of adder fish. And that fish is fished out in the sea. And that is part of how we empty the sea of fish. We are sort of just vacuum cleaning the sea for fish to feed fish with. And that is completely unsustainable and extremely stupid. And we do this the same with the chickens and with the pigs and things like that. And the European Union now have ideas to forbid the use of fish to feed pigs and chicken and things like that. And then what should they do? They need to find new ways of getting the protein for the salmon farms, pig farms, etc. And one way is, of course, algae. You could do that from macroalgae or from the microalgae. But even if they are very lipid-rich and so on, it seems that the salmon, for example, when they get algae, they cannot metabolize it in a proper way. So they get some problems with the gut and so on. So the thing here is that the mussel, we could do feed for the chickens here. And this could open a giant market. And we have now just started in Sweden with a little factory where we produce this mussel, what did you say? Not powder. I mean, what I'm searching for, mussel pellets, you could maybe say pellets. And this is an interesting thing. And we made some experiments, or it was made in this project. And now you could learn some Swedish. This is the free choice of the feed that means. And then you have oiled mussel meat here, and then you have the ordinary feed here. And this is a very scientific experiment, but you see what they prefer here. They love it. And the thing is that the egg, the yolk, you see the yolk, it gets very, very yellow and very nice. So it looks very attractive. It's the same thing you get when you have this organic chickens out. And it doesn't taste fish. Because that is a problem that eggs could taste fish and things like that, but it doesn't. It gets really good quality out of this. So hopefully this could be a very important market for mussel cultures, especially these small, tiny ones that we have in the Baltic Sea. That is not good enough for human consumption. So, and something interesting you could do. I mean, if you start to think, you could put these mussel farms in fjords or in areas, and then you could combine them with algae farms, and you could have fish farms, and then you have this multiple combination, and that is very interesting. And the thing, I know people here are interested in the lipids and to produce biodiesel, and the thing is that the fecalia, you know what I mean, the fecalia from the mussel farm is still, the lipids are much there, so you could actually squeeze out and make biodiesel from the fecalia from the mussel farm. So that is very nice. They collect all, they do all the job, and then they concentrate it as a fecalia that drops down under the mussel bed. And if you could find ways to collect this, you could also produce energy from that. So this is just some both ideas that are just starting up, and also about things that have been tried out, and it's all different in all different levels of yeah, we are on different levels. Some have been more advanced, and others are just ideas. So we have a group behind this working at our department. Maria is part of that, and we have a couple of PhD students and so on working with this at QTH. But the nice thing is that we are cooperating very much. It's really nice because we need to solve all this problem. We cannot solve it at QTH. We need to have help from different experts in different places. So it's a very good thing. We have really this multidisciplinary work and cooperation between universities that have different specialities, and also with the municipalities supporting this in different ways and so on. And it's economists are working with us. We have marine biologists, we have engineers, and all kind of people are interested in this. And I guess I will not talk so much more. So thank you very much for your attention. Yeah, it's a good question, but these ones, they are feeding on the plankton, on the microplankton, so they don't have so much of organic pollutants or metals. There's very low contents of pollutants because they are low, very down in the trophical chain. So they are. We don't have those kind of problems with the mussels. If you use the red algae I showed you, they could accumulate cadmium and things like that. So there you have a heavy metal problem, and it could be problematic, especially if you want to use them on the agricultural fields. And that is a trouble that we have, especially in the south of Sweden, where we have used extensive artificial fertilizers that is always contaminated with a small amount of cadmium. So it's concentrated in the soil. It's problematic.
Algae for biofuel, has it become economic-wise as far as with a lot of steps process to make biofuel? It is a high-effective product, right? Are there reducing steps to make it more economic?
Yeah, the people working with the microalgae for biofuels, that is this big sort of branch, and they are working very hard to handle the bottlenecks. And as I said, there are better experts on this here in the room than me. But I would say that the nutrients are, of course, you have to recirculate the nutrients. That is a very important bottleneck, and do that. But it's also the culturing and the collecting of the algae, the dewatering, and all the processes in the bag. So it's a lot of things that have to be solved. But if you solve it, the profit will be enormous. And the ones working with this says that it maybe in 10 years it could be on its way. I know here in America, in the States, it's supported very much with this homeland security. The army is supporting it because they get. So that's an important way that stimulates this kind of research. We don't have that. As I said, in Sweden there, it's just the energy is a secondary thing that okay, it's good to get some energy out of it. But we are more concerned of the recovery of the sea, and also to get looking into this more high-value products like pigments, different enzymes, and liquids, and things like that. Yes?
You showed a picture of a truck.
Yeah. I think it was.
I missed it, but were those green columns full of algae?
Mm-hmm. They were like bioreactors. And this is something that is coming. They do this. I don't know if you heard about this desert Arabians. They are building these ecological cities like Masdar City and some other they call the desert some projects, and they involve this incorporating of algae into the architecture.
What goes into these columns? Wastewater?
Yeah, they have to add fertilizers. They need to have something to grow on. So they add fertilizer. Wastewater could be used. But I think more that is more for the fun of it, that you have some algae. Yeah.
How about the energy for the plant for growing freshwater algae and growing saltwater algae? What's the energy?
Yeah, you need to put a lot of energy into it, and it's much less you get out of it. So it's a negative energy balance. It's really, really bad. Especially the one we have been working with in China, there it's a really catastrophe. But you could do a lot of improvements, and you could go slowly towards a positive, or not very close to a positive energy balance. But it's still a lot to do. Therefore, we like that. For us, we are more interested in the macro algae.
Could you repeat
Oh, sorry.
So I've never worked with pigments or other highlight products, but I would expect that the communities that work with those would generally produce them under very controlled conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, have you interacted or had discussions where there's this disconnect between wanting to harvest something from the natural environment, which has fluctuating conditions, like very poor controls, you're not sure what you might be harvesting, with the communities that you're trying to market this to, that are generally maybe predominantly chemical engineers or others who have very highly controlled systems where they know what their product is.
No, the question here was about if there is a competition here between the wild harvest or if you culture them. And I would say that if you're going to use them for these high value products, you need to culture them in enclosed bioreactors because you want to know exactly what they contain. And in Sweden, we have so far only one commercial company, it's called Swedish Algae, that are working with extracting just pigments out of this. You know, there could be a very, very high value of these pigments. You know, Smarties, this candy, Smarties, they had blue Smarties. And blue Smarties, there was something really toxic they put in that to get the blue color. But now they could get this color out of algae. So, and then suddenly the blue Smarties are back. So that is just an example.
So you had mentioned the interest in possibly some work in the area of harvesting natural algal blooms. So not the ones that grow in the world, but actually naturally occur. Just curious if you can elaborate on the types of equipment that you've seen might be good for that, or?
I think it's a question about the equipment to harvest algae, and I think you're right. This is something that we need engineers to develop, because when there is a lot to develop this type of tools or machines to collect algae. And I sometimes say, let's look at forest industry, agriculture industry. They have been developing good machines for hundreds of years, and now we are trying how should we do this in the water. When we collected the macroalgae in Trelleborg in the water, we had an American pea, you know, this green peas, a pea collecting machine. Do you say peas? You know, yes. And that was just modified, and we used it, and it worked. But you need to improve this and develop the machinery. That is an important thing. And that is the same with this oil beans booms that we are using. We need to develop it more. Now we are just showing that it's possible, but you have to have very efficient methods in order to get profit.
Yeah, is there a coastal fishery, and would that be improved by removing a lot of these algal mats? Has that been looked at? You mentioned the environmental benefit of cleaner beaches and the tourism aspect. I wondered about maybe the fishery aspect that might be improved by.
It's a good question, and the question was about if we remove the algae mats, if that could be improved the fish population. And that is something that we look into, because that is something we believe if we take up these algae mats, because they cause anoxic conditions, and if we do that, there will be an improvement, hopefully. But we will. There are some experiments now that we are trying to evaluate that. And another beneficial thing, if you culture algae or mussels, if you put these ropes hanging in the water, you create like reefs, secondary reefs that will stimulate the biodiversity, and you will get more fish coming there and things like that. So there are a lot of positive aspects also with the cultures if they are hanging in. You get eel, a fish like the eel, for example.
Why does my spinach have less iron?
Pardon me, I didn't.
Why does spinach have less iron?
Why? Because, yes, because the soil have been sort of, you say, diluted of iron, because you don't give these micronutrients when you put these artificial fertilizers, you don't compensate for the whole branch of micronutrients. And then slowly we could produce a lot of food, but the food is actually a less value from a nutritional point of view. I just took the spinach as an example.
Yeah, since you said that,
You could say, take the same, it's the same with cobalt, for example, that you need in small trace amounts. It's the same, and yes.
So is eutrophication, is it a regular occurrence nowadays in Baltic Sea, or?
I would say that eutrophication is in all coastal regions around the whole world. It is a major problem. As I showed there from China, in China, for example, they had huge problems with both cyanobacterial blooms and green algae blooms. And you see it in Africa. I mean, all in coastal regions, we have now caused this. And it's one of the most, at least in the Baltic Sea, we consider this as one of the most important environmental questions that we have to deal with.
Is it the rising temperatures or nutrient loading or combination
No.
of both things?
It is a combination, actually. It's not only the nutrient load. It's, as you say, the climate change have extended the growth period. So you have it's actually the Baltic Sea have been 1 degree Celsius warmer, and that is kind of a dramatic increase in temperature in the sea. And that extends the growth period so to produce more biomass. And then, of course, there is the traffic is causing a lot of nitrogen. And then we have, in the deeper parts of the Baltic Sea, we have huge amounts of phosphorus. And this phosphorus is leaking. And then it stimulates these cyanobacterial blooms. And they will take the nitrogen from the atmosphere and get it down into the Baltic Sea. And that is also a very important part. So when you make one of these budgets, you will see that the nitrogen coming from the cyanobacteria have increased because they are stimulated by a warmer water temperature. They stand for a huge amount of nitrogen input to the Baltic Sea.
When you do your economic analysis, so that you get coastal communities, what were the main economic drivers, and were you able to incorporate any savings to the tourism industry by mitigating?
Excuse me. It's a question about the economical drivers when you do it. And I would say that tourism is a very important part because it's not so easy to do this economical calculation. You could say you could make an economical calculation how much it costs to go out and collect that is easy, man hours and so on. And then you could say how much it costs to produce biogas or that is easy. And tourism you could count because you could do this kind of questionnaires and you could go indirectly and things. So, and that is a very important part to get the economy going. And then, of course, you get paid a bit for the biogas, and that is positive. So we have been doing this. But probably we have missed one of the most important things because, as we said, this fish increase, we haven't counted on that because we don't have any good data on it. And of course, that is a value that we cannot put dollars on it or crowns. And that is also with the mitigation of eutrophication in coastal areas. How should we put the price on it? How much are we willing to pay? And I'm not an economist, but I've learned a little bit now when we've been working with this. There is different methods to do that. You could do it by the willingness to pay to have a better coastal area, or you could do it by other methods. And you could get a huge difference in the economical balance. And this needs to be more worked on by economists and in cooperation with ecologists. Something that have started now in the Baltic Sea is that we are thinking about having a nutrient trade to stimulate this, because it's not fair. similar like you have this carbon dioxide trade, that nutrient trade. And there could be stimulation for farmers to establish, for example, an algae culture outside the farmland and say that, okay, this algae farm is taking all the nitrogen that we releases from my piece of land. And this is new ways of thinking. And that is good with the European Union project, because then you have stakeholders. For example, in this submariner I talked about, we have the Federal Ministry of Germany. They are sitting in the project. And then we could, and they don't like mussel farms, for example, in Germany or some reason or another, because they are more conservative, because under a mussel farm you will have anoxic conditions sometimes. You cause an impact under a mussel farm, even if you don't put that. Then you have to talk with them and try to convince them. And finally, you change the set of mind, and then you could change the politics in the Baltic Sea. This is the good thing with this regional project, that you meet all these kind of different stakeholders. You have to change the, how you play the game.